All right, everybody. Today we are here with Xtreme Couture coach and MMA mastermind Eric Nicksick. How are you doing today, sir? And welcome to the DailyDose MMA show.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, good to have me. Thank you. Appreciate you.
So before we kind of get into some of the fighters that obviously you train, I kind of wanted to get a little more background information on you. I was reading a little bit on your story, and I was just kind of fascinated on how you got into martial arts. And obviously you stuck around Xtreme Couture, I believe, since 2007 is when you started. I mean, can you just kind of tell me how you went from someone looking for an MMA journey to becoming a head coach?
Yeah, I think just staying along in the process the whole time. Like I never really stepped foot in the gym because I wanted to be like this pro fighter. I was looking for more of the camaraderie in the team. And when I did, I found that here, and I just really took a liking to the sport. I was testing for the fire department at the same time. And then I felt like I was going to have a different career path. And then Randy offered me the gym manager position here. I'd already been coaching for a couple of years. And to be honest with you, man, my heart was here, and this is what I wanted to do. And I just fell in love with everything about it. And, once I figure out what I want to do and I want to get after it, I just want to be the best that I can be at it. So, just surround myself with great coaches and great people, and I think good things will happen.
And coming from a big gym like yours, obviously at Xtreme Couture, you guys are down in Vegas. I've kind of seen, like when fighters come out of camps, it's usually either kind of bigger camps like you guys or, American Top Team or AKA. And then you have these guys, that come out of these small camps where not a lot of people are, kind of like, the Max Holloways, if you will, things like that. It seems like there's kind of two pathways of gyms. Can you kind of speak to that? I mean, obviously you have a bunch of killers over there at Xtreme Couture. I mean, can you kind of speak to the big gym, small gym factor?
Yeah, so Tyson Chartier and I are very, very close, and we talk about that quite a bit because Tyson has that small gym feel. He's got Rob Font and Calvin Cater, of course, but and a couple other guys, yeah, but he doesn't have like the roster that we might have. So there's always the comparisons that him and I sit and talk about. Moreover, like how we handle this when it's a small group environment versus the big gym. And I leaned on Tyson a lot, especially during the pandemic, because we didn't have the bodies that we usually had in here during practices. When the pandemic hit, I only had really, if you had a fight signed, I'd allow you to have, yourself and then maybe 2 or 3 other training partners. And I was hoping that those training partners would also have fights lined up to keep it at a minimum of the amount of people that were in the gym. So it turned into a very like a boxing oriented small gym vibe. And I liked it. I did. I really liked it because I felt like you were able to give more attention. And then, but having the big gym environment as well, there's kind of that ecosystem where you're able to feed off of the fighters that maybe not going to be the highest level, but they serve a purpose in their gym as well. And not saying that they're like the prey, but you need to have those B-roll players, if you will, because they actually make your A-roll players better. So that system that we have here in place, I think with the standard that we have set, it just fits our style much better than that small role.
And obviously with the location of your gym being where it is down in Vegas, I mean, do you feel kind of blessed to have so many fighters come through? I mean, obviously they have so many resources in Vegas. You have the UFC PI. Obviously if you're going to fight at the Apex or T-Mobile Arena, you guys are already in town. It's not like you guys are doing this crazy travel like some of the other people. I mean, do you feel kind of lucky that, I mean, obviously you have to travel sometimes, when your fighters got those fights, but do you feel lucky that, you kind of just have the home field advantage per se, I guess?
Oh, so lucky, man. Like, James Krause and I talk all the time, and that dude's on the road quite a bit, where I have the luxury of getting a fight and going home and being with my family immediately after the fight, and that for us being in Vegas, we always had that transient vibe to it where it was always a big fight weekend. So a big fight weekend would come, and we knew a bunch of people would be coming into the gym that week or that weekend, and it had that vibe. And then of course, when they opened the PI, more and more fighters started to trickle their way back into Vegas because the PI is such a great commodity for them. So ourselves, and then obviously Syndicate up the street, we see more of an influx of fighters that maybe, traveling in and out. And then all of a sudden they go, man, I like what these guys have going on in Vegas. I think I'll move. So we've got a lot of fighters move out to Vegas.
And with the world of MMA always evolving, I mean, you see Dana White out here buying an island in Abu Dhabi. I mean, crazy things like that. I mean, is there any place in the world that you think that you would want to visit? I mean, say Dana had an event that would be perfect for you. Is there anywhere in the world that you would maybe want to visit?
I would like to be able to go to Africa sometime with Francis. I think that would just be a fun, nostalgic, a good kind of a backstory from where he's been, where he's come from, but also to go back and give back to the people of Cameroon or the people of Africa. And because, man, when Francis won that fight, it was so cool. Like you didn't really understand the ripple effect that it had on a whole continent, so it was such a nice feeling of support. But it was also like, you just know that you have this huge country behind you. So it'd be nice to pay it forward and go and do an event out there at some point in our careers.
And I was just going to say, I mean, obviously Francis just got his title defense announced. I mean, I look at a guy like Francis, you see him when he's training every single day. I look like a guy like Francis, and, I wouldn't want to probably get near that guy if he's swinging his hands at me. I mean, are you holding mitts or are you putting that on somebody else?
No, I hold mitts for him all the time, myself and Coach Dewey Cooper. But yeah, I have a little bit more of an MMA style pad holding. So I tend to get hit a little bit more because we're working into the clinch and working into our takedowns and some ground and pounds and stuff like that. But oh yeah, overall, man, we're all getting the crap kicked out of us and we're holding pads for Francis. That's for sure.
And I was just gonna, ask you your opinion on kind of this whole situation you have with Francis. I mean, he beat Stipe for the title. I mean, I heard, obviously they had the interim belt with Gane and Lewis scheduled in August. I heard rumors that By Francis was ready in September. I mean, that just seemed kind of weird that they would have an interim if he was ready the next month. I mean, it just kind of seemed disrespectful, I guess, with a lack of a better word. But it just seemed kind of weird. I mean, was that kind of weird to talk to Francis and kind of talk him through that?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think it is what it is, and you can play into it a lot and make it more severe than it needs to be, or you can just let it roll off your shoulder. And I don't try to add more bullshit to our plate. We're already busy enough. We already have to deal with enough. We were ready for September 25th. That was the date that we were told for Derek Lewis. We were supposed to fight him here at T-Mobile. The UFC had other plans. They decided to go along with Derek Lewis in Houston, which you can't blame them. That's the draw. Is if you're going to fight in Houston, you have to have Derek Lewis on that card no matter what. So they made a business decision. I think the fight made sense. I don't think adding the interim title made any sense. I think that part of it could have been disrespectful, but it is what it is, man. It's over now. And now, the winner of the Derek Lewis Ciryl Gane fight was going to fight Francis, whether there's the interim or there's not. We're gonna have a title fight one way or another. So I can give two shits about it, and it is what it is, to be honest with you.
And a guy like you, I mean, obviously you're a head coach of these top tier athletes like Francis. When you see film on Ciryl, I mean, is there anything? I mean, obviously he's a great striker, things like that. I mean, is there anything that you feel like you kind of need to be weary of, and maybe show Francis like this is where you don't want to be?
No, I think that he just does a lot of things really, really good. And it's Ciryl Gane. I think he's very efficient in his striking. I think he's beautiful feints. I think he's very good at not getting hit. So I think he does a lot of great things. And we have our basically we have to make sure we have a good game plan. I think that Francis is going to have to implement a full MMA skill set. He's going to have to show some things maybe he hasn't shown in other fights. And, I think we have our work cut out for us. I think it's going to be a great fight. And that's what we signed up for. I don't think that at this point in our careers that we're going to have easy fights, and no one wants that. We want to be fighting the best of the best.
And when Francis fought last against Stipe and won the belt from him, I think a big turning point for everybody watching is kind of when Francis stuffed Stipe's takedown and then ended up taking him down. And I kind of remember watching and thinking to myself, oh shit, this might be over very soon. And, he ended up ending it very quickly. I mean, can you kind of speak to the training regimen of, I guess you could say, calm Francis? I mean, he looked fantastic out there. He looked like a world beater. Like no one's going to be on his level.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've seen in the room for a long time, but he just really hasn't had to implement any of that in a fight. And the Jairzinho Rosenstruck fight didn't really help our cause either, because he didn't look very technical. He came out and just ran across the cage and just put this dude away. But a lot of times I think that's just a testament to Francis and his fight IQ and his situational awareness, where he's like, you know what, I'm just not going to play with this guy at this range anymore. I'm just going to go put him to sleep. Whereas the fight, I felt like, came to Francis a little bit differently in the Stipe fight, and he was patient and calm because that's the fight that presented itself. So his understanding of the fight game, I think, is evolving to a point where, we're able to see maybe a little bit more out of him time in, time out. And, fortunately for us, in his last 4 or 5 fights, we haven't gone to the second round. This fight was a little bit more of that, paint a picture and let you see what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, and I mean, can you kind of speak to what without giving away too much, what you kind of plan on doing? I mean, do you want to keep it kind of a technical kickboxing match with Ciryl? Or, I mean, obviously Francis has the rushing ability of, anybody probably best out there, but maybe you don't want to rush in against a technical guy like Ciryl.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to show my cards too much, but yeah, I think if you try to beat him at what he's already good at, you might be in for a long night, because I think the biggest fight that I had the most takeaway from was the Volkov fight. And Volkov is a very technical striker, and he's very good at length and what he does. And Ciryl Gane did a great job in that fight. So I think that there's elements of all these fights that you can take away, but you also just can't try to do something that you're really not. So for us, I think we have to just maintain what we're very good at. And again, like, he has to deal with us too, right? And I think that's the thing that people keep forgetting is everybody's like, well, how are you going to deal with Ciryl Gane? Well, ask that motherfucker how he's going to deal with us too.
And I mean, we kind of touched on this earlier with, Xtreme Couture being in Vegas, but I mean, when you have these big events, kind of like September 25th with, Volkanovski defending his title against Ortega, I mean, when you're there and things like that, I mean, do you get these nerves, even though they're not your guys maybe in the main event, but do you kind of get these like nerves watching these guys go out and fight, knowing, like maybe, these could be your guys, or, maybe you're like, oh, I wish, I could coach him to do this better or that better. Do you ever get kind of like that when you're watching fights?
Not really from a technical side of things. I actually get more nervous when I'm not involved and I'm there in the environment. But when I'm there, man, I'm on tunnel vision. I don't think about anything other than the task at hand, and I love it. I find peace in that space. My wife asked me, she's like, "Aren't you nervous?" While I'm like, "Nope, I'm pretty dialed in, and my heart rate's low, and I'm ready to go." And I just don't have that. But when I'm there as a spectator and I'm there watching, like I'm there maybe watching my friends, and Cynthia Calvillo was on the last card, and she's a good friend and a teammate. So yeah, I was super nervous for her because, our coaches are involved, our team's involved. I know Cynthia very well, but then I can't help her for where I'm at. I'm not in the corner. So yeah, I get a little nervous when it comes to that kind of stuff. But when it involves me and I'm there, I have zero issues with it whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, I mean, speaking just from a fan perspective, whenever, I mean, it's a good fight no matter what weight class it's in, whether how I feel about the guy, it doesn't really matter. I get kind of this like anxiety when they're walking out, because I just, MMA is the greatest sport because you just don't know what's going to happen, and yeah. It was running pretty rampant, and the anxiety level was watching even Diaz come out, and that wasn't even a title fight. There was nothing on the line there, but it was still, just seeing like a legend of the sport. I was sitting on my bed. I was like, oh man, I can't stay still. Like, this is too exciting for me.
For sure, man. I don't think there's really any better feeling in the world than the walkout, and walking out with your guy or girl and just being in that setting. And some good music playing and walking through that corridors and going out and then going out to the cage. And man, it's a pretty cool vibe. It's a pretty cool feeling. And I wish everybody was able to do that at least once in their lives.
And one more thing about Francis real quick. I mean, can you kind of speak to how cool it is to see 3 African, champions in the UFC right now? I mean, you kind of touched on how much it means to Cameroon that, Francis brought it back, but, it seems almost destined at this point that the UFC should hold an event and they could have 3 title fights on the card in Africa. I mean, now I'm just throwing ideas out there. I'm not Dana White. I don't get paid to make these decisions, but I mean, yeah. Can you kind of just speak to the martial arts aspect in Africa? I mean, obviously they're bringing in these great talents.
Right. I love every little bit of it. And I think it's very important, especially for the continent. But I'll even take it one step further is the camaraderie that they all have, the three of them have together. You know, especially Kamaru and Francis, you know, they've been in each other's corners. They help each other. I know Francis plans to go out to New York to be there for Usman. I don't know if he's going to be in his corner, but I know he's going to make sure that he's there for him. And I think it just says a lot about their character and how they feel about one another. You know, we don't get to see Israel as much, but that's moreover due to proximity. And hopefully, like when he's back in Vegas, he's able to come in the gym or be around, because, you know, I had a corner against Israel with Brad Tavares, and I came out of that fight just mesmerized by some of the things that he was doing. So we could all learn from one another, and I think that's the nice thing that these guys have with this African camaraderie, is that they really help one another throughout the process.
Well, sir, we do appreciate your time here. I know you said you had to get going here pretty soon, so I won't hold you up too long. But if there's anything else you'd like to say to the fans out there, man, the floor is absolutely yours.
No, man, I appreciate everybody's support. You know, we've been grinding at this thing for a long, long time. And, you know, obviously now that we have the belt, it feels good, but you know, there's still a lot more work to be done, and we're just going to keep our head down and keep grinding. So if you want to check me out on Instagram, it's an easy follow, Eric_XCMMA.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Again, everybody, this is Eric Nicksick, the head coach over at Xtreme Couture. Again, thank you so much for joining us on the Daily Dose MMA show.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, Eric Nicksick.